there and welcome back to Japan, where I'm going to be giving you my first ever reaction and review to a group who I believe are called Cyber. There's an 8 where the B should be, but I'm assuming that we're still supposed to call them Cyber. As always, if you want to see the reaction part, I've just done that. This is the review video, and the reaction can be watched by pausing this video, clicking the link in the description below. That opens up a little YouTube player, another one in a different window, where you can watch the reaction with me. If you want to see the song with me, or if you've never heard the song, do that, and then you can see the initial reaction. You good? You done that? All right, here comes the review. Don't say I didn't warn you. Okay, so this one was, it was one of those ones where I think every time that I review a song that is produced by Nakata Yasutaka, it does end up coming back to a similar point, which is that, and we will cover this first of all before we get into the details of this song, which is that you're either going to love or hate this guy, because what he does tend to do pretty much the same sound in most of his songs. And yet I would say that I draw a comparison when people say, oh, all of his songs sound the same. I draw a comparison to maybe if you're into like a hard rock band. It could be argued that pretty much hard rock bands, every single song they do is basically the same palette of sounds. So can you really complain about this guy using the exact same palette of sounds every single time? It's more down to, are the songs written differently? Now, I know a lot of hard rock fans would say, well, it's down to the musicianship. And yeah, okay, if you're programming music, there isn't the same musicianship. But ultimately, songwriting is songwriting. It's, do you like the layout of notes that are put in front of you? So I think he does a very good job of making his songs layered and interesting and well written. And yeah, he does have a definite palette that he always comes back to. I mean, there's certain little sounds you hear, you go, yeah, that's the same sound used in this song, that song, this song. You know, he writes them differently every time. He does a different production. I'm assuming he writes as well as produces his stuff. That just seems to be the obvious answer to that. So yeah, in regards to this, yeah, if you dislike the fact that he always uses the same sounds, well, obviously you're going to hate this. And you're probably also going to hate the fact that he's gone for a group who, although they do have their own sounds, like I say, I was quite impressed that each individual member does seem to have a different enough voice that you can really hear them as being unique and individual, which I think is really important for a group and doesn't often, well, very often you don't notice that in like these sorts of pop groups. It's not something that they really think about when they're putting them together. I like the groups where you can hear the difference between each member and it gives their lines a bit of personality, and these girls seem to on first listen have enough difference between their voices to really stand out. However, they are all roughly in the similar sort of singing style to, you know, Kyari Pami Pami. So, you know, again, if you're against Mr. Nakata using the same sounds quite frequently, then that's probably going to make you dislike this as well. So this is definitely not a song that's going to win over any non-fans of his. But I say that often about his stuff because I think that he doesn't really ever push to win over non-fans, just play to the people who already like his sound. Fair enough, nothing wrong with that. So yeah, in regards to this, I would say that although it's my first time hearing this group, it does sound like a well-worn track that we've already walked down a few times. However, and I include the video in that, the glitchy video. You know, this sort of video glitching style was kind of cool, but I said it reminded me a lot of Tokyo on My Way by Puffy, which was a cool video as well as other things like Kyari Pami Pami videos also. However, I have to say with this, it did just work, and that seems to be another trait of his. If you can enjoy his sound, if you can enjoy the sound that he does, and if you like the style of singing that these girls are doing in this video as well, this is seemingly a group who have a real identity of the way they sing, which, like I say, matches his style of production. If you're already okay with those things, I think this is one that I wouldn't be surprised about you really enjoying. I enjoyed this because I do like his sound and his style. So for me, this just kind of, it clicked for that reason. It had a nice sort of ability to switch things up as it went along. It had little sections. Like I say, each of the individual singers had a different enough voice that it kind of meant that their lines sounded nice and separate from each other. There were little changes of the rhythm that were good, as always. His production's very detailed and layered. There was lots of nice little sounds coming and going. It had quite a dancey hook to it. Not the most catchy hook he's ever done. And, you know, it could have been better, but it was still pretty good, pretty damn good. And it was rescued, I guess, by the fact that the song had such a pleasingly fun twee nature to begin with. It was bouncing along in such a likable way to begin with. You know, it was kind of something where you just kind of were more taken by the atmosphere of the song, by the plethora of sounds, and just by the overall feeling that it was, as often is the case with his songs, it was a nicely rounded sound. There's lots of things going on, and your ears just feel engaged, and it's got a pleasing, charming mood. I would actually say that it's probably an overly simplistic and stereotypical way of looking at his music, but I would say a lot of his music, certainly of the ilk of this and Kyari Pam Pami, more so than Perfume perhaps, but a lot of his music, I think, is like the audio equivalent of going to a maid cafe. Because it's that whole sort of feeling that, okay, it's like it's deliberately being overly charming, overly twee, overly sweet. But if you can just engage and go, well, that's kind of the point, you can enjoy the detail of the show, then the charm kind of takes over. And if you stop taking it too seriously and instead enjoy the qualities, the silly qualities that it's working so hard to actually put forward, then it becomes actually quite charming and engaging, and you can see a lot of qualities that you would otherwise miss if you just took it at face value. I think that's actually a very good comparison. I think you can apply both of those things equally to the songs that we often hear from Mr. Nakata, and also from a maid cafe. I think that's actually a very good comparison. I'm going to try using that again in future. So anyway, like I said, I enjoyed this, but I enjoyed it in a way that didn't feel like I was listening to a new artist, but did feel like I was listening to something that I could relatably see why I had enjoyed in the past and continue to enjoy in the future. As always, I don't pre-research any of these things. I take them directly from your recommendations. So I would like to know, does this group always work with him? Because that would seem almost logical given their sound. I don't know if they're one of the groups who he has basically taken under his wing. If this is just one song that they've done with him, I'd love to hear more of their different songs. And if you can suggest something that would be quite a variation from this, just so I can get a real taste of maybe the other side of what they do, then that would be brilliant. As always, though, get in the comments and tell me whether you like this or not, whether you know the artist or not, what you think. It's all about discussion. Music is subjective after all. I can give my opinions as someone who's worked with music my entire adult life, but music is only as good as you enjoy it to be. So get in the comments, like and subscribe if you don't mind. If you want to do more talking about Japanese music, remember we've also got links to our Discord and Reddit, as well as the Facebook and Twitter in the description below, as well as the merch link and the Patreon link. Big thank you to our patrons for keeping the channel alive, and a big thank you to you for making it through to the end of this video. So thank you so much for watching and listening, and hopefully I will see you soon here in Japan on the next video. But for now, ciao ciao.